recording. My name is Rick Stroot. I'm a technical application engineer at Innofor, focused on ALM. My backgrounds are in electronic design, automation, and I'm based in the Netherlands. And together with me is my colleague John Ludwigsen, technical sales manager, ALM, and he's based in Sweden. And today what I would like to cover is a little bit about digitalizing lifecycle processes, specifically in the medical device industry, while covering some inspiring solutions. So the agenda for today is we will first cover some challenges in the medical technology industry, but also provide some alternatives, way of working to overcome these challenges. And then finally, we will also cover a little bit on the solutions that we can offer to implement these alternatives. So the medical technology sector is one of the most innovative industries in the world. However, the innovative strength of manufacturers is currently being slowed down by the constantly increasing regulatory requirements. So we see that the proof of these regulatory compliancy for a medical device is provided based on what we call the technical documentation, which is obviously a result of product development processes and various other interfacing processes. If these regulatory requirements are not fulfilled, then obviously companies and manufacturers can't put their products on the market. So I don't know if you look to the slide here, if you recognize these figures, that what we've seen is that there's really a slowdown of the innovation there. And surveys by industry associations show the problem that the innovation climate in medical technology is currently really at a low point, and that innovative devices are now first launched by many other companies in other countries, such as USA or Japan or anywhere else. So because of this regulatory compliancy, and especially the strength of the regulatory requirements in this industry, we see a decrease in terms of innovativeness. In Europe, due to an extensive change resulting from the MDR and IVDR, a new market approval is required for all medical device and in vitro devices, IVDs, already on the market, which means a revision of the technical documentation for each of these devices. The Medical Device Regulation, MDR, came into effect in May 2021, replacing the old MDD, Medical Device Directive, and the in vitro diagnostic device regulations, or IVDR, came into effect in May 22, a year later, replacing the in vitro diagnostic medical device directive, IVDD. And the main bottlenecks here are resource capabilities and capacity, and the lack of specialists, not only at the manufacturers, but also at the notified bodies, which is currently causing a really long delay in the registration process. And a result of that is that the resources that are really needed for developing and approval of new innovative medical devices in Europe are only limited available, because they're all, consumed or occupied with re-registering your existing devices. And this trend is really expected to continue till at least 2028, which is the extended transition period for the new MDR and IVDR. These regulatory requirements from laws, guidelines, and standards are really aimed to bring safer product on the market. However, the current situation in Europe is really putting patients at risk due to the limited resources at the medical device manufacturers, but also at the notified bodies. The key challenges that we see in creating this technical documentation are the 4 items described on this slide. So consistency in regulatory language, reuse and consistency, dependency of information, and completeness of required information. And these last 3 can be solved today. So reuse of information, linkage between individual processes and information, and the completeness of information. These challenges can all be addressed through digitalization of processes and the associated documentation. Software solutions enable the change from a purely document-based way of working to an individual information units with unique IDs. All of these unique source documents, in other words, a single source of truth, can be reused in other documents in read-only mode, allowing direct linking to each other to ensure traceability. So basically, that is already a step in the right direction. So let's zoom into each of these challenges in the next slides. Due to the regulatory requirements, certain information is required in different places or documents within the technical documentation. And this picture shows an example based on the European standards for information that is defined actually in the intended purpose document, but should be reused across multiple other documents in several processes. Of course, the notified bodies expect that this information is consistent in all the documents and is also kept up to date. So if the technical documentation is created with Word or Excel, this means you have to put in a large effort to make sure that all of that is kept up to date. And the higher the complexity of information often leads to inconsistency, which is typically identified during the review of the technical documentation. And this is not done by you as a company or as a manufacturer, but typically done by the notified bodies. Again, leading to several iterations because they have to push back the information back to you as a manufacturer, making sure you update your technical documentation and register it again. And this is really leading into delays into market approval. This slide shows the results from workshops that were conducted by the MedTech digitalization experts from Avasis, a German organization that we partner with and specialized in the MedTech solutions. This shows that 37% of the data is reused in key processes for product development, and even more than 70% in the post-market and clinical follow-up and surveillance. According to estimates, on average, about 50% of all information in a document is reused at least once in other documents and often in several other documents. And in addition, if a product contains multiple variants, then all of this is even multiplied to a higher level of reuse, as it applies to all different kinds of variations of the product that you create, and the documentation accordingly. Furthermore, there are actually more and more regulatory required documents, which have led to an increase of almost 600% between 2017 and 2023 of single documents only in the areas of clinical evaluation and post-market surveillance. So the amount of documentation that you have to deliver as a manufacturer basically explodes over the time, and due to the complexity of your device, it is even higher. So what could digitalization do? Well, digitalization does require transformation and shift in mindset from documents to knowledge in the form of single information units. Digitalization processes also enable automation in the creation of the content in the documents, and it provides an automatic consistency and completeness check. So we once have to define things in what we call an information unit, and this information unit can be reused across different documents in an automatic way. And this significantly reduces the effort that is required to technical documentation, to create the technical documentation, and also to improve the quality, because resulting in a much faster market approval and products, because we can reuse that information and automatically create it. This sort of database approach also enables a better market surveillance and also allows efficient creation of regulatory or regular post-market surveillance documents. So any necessary product changes can also be implemented much more efficiently. Basically, the digitalization of regulatory processes and the technical documentation has a positive impact on the entire ecosystem, because resources at the manufacturers and notified bodies are released from doing things that they've done already and repeating things they've already done. And they can be used for other value-adding tasks like focusing on new devices, new developed products. Also, new procedures and improvements to already improved products are available to patients much more quickly. So considering these clear advantages, well, you might have the question, why hasn't all the manufacturers of medical and in vitro devices already digitalized their processes? So this database approach that I've addressed in the previous slides allows information to be stored in what we call work items instead of plain text documents. And these work items get their own IDs, which makes them unique and traceable. They have their own life cycle. They have their own way of taking them through the workflow, reviewing them, approving them, etc. They are version controlled, which also means that we can roll back to a previous version. We can see the differences, etc. So we can keep track of what has been done over time. Also, and this is key, we can reuse these items across different documents. So we once define it and then reuse it across different documents. And once we change it, it's changing across the entire portfolio of documents. So that is really a big advantage against storing this information in documents or on paper even. These single information elements within the technical documentation are not only valid on their own, but also linked to other information that have dependencies. Such links must be visible. So to create an understanding of the technical documentation content, we have to create links and we have to understand the links during the creation and the review process. Let's take an example. A requirement for a design of a product must be linked to a test description for demonstrating and the demonstration of the verification and or validation activities. At the end, a valid test result is needed as evidence for regulatory compliance. Another example is that the results of usability engineering process must be used as an input for the risk management process, for example. So for the visualization of traceability, there must be a unique mapping between these two information units, not on a document level, but on an information unit level, on a work item ID level. And if the technical documentation is based on Word or Excel, or even on paper, but especially Word or Excel, these individual information units are usually numbered manually. And then the links are displayed in the form of a table. But this also means that if something changes, it's a high manual effort because we have to change those tables, we have to change those references, and there's a cost possible cost for risk for errors. It's also crucial to understand that simply linking or relating the documents in Word or Excel is not enough. Because it's important that we have individual data within these documents that is linked to the related data in other documents. So it's not on a document level we need to create these links. It's on what we call an informational unit or work item level where we create the links. A risk is linked to a clinical risk. A requirement is linked to a clinical performance item or a clinical benefit. This is the only way to create a single and unambiguous relationship between input and output data. Let's look at challenge 4, which is ensuring completeness of information. Annex 2 and 3 of the MDR and IVDR describe that the required content of the technical documentation. And in practice, a technical documentation file consists of many individual documents, often hundreds, sometimes even thousands of pages long. The content is being created by different departments over a longer period of time. And due to high complexity of processes and created information, it's really rather difficult for regulatory affair managers to ensure that all this regulatory required content are complete within the technical documentation once it's handed over to the notified bodies for review. So according to the statements made by the notified bodies at various industry conferences, the incomplete content is an issue for almost all technical documentation. And this is really a massive delay in the approval process of new devices. So making sure that all the information is there is a crucial part of delivering that data. And by creating what we call a work item defined approach, where we have a mechanism where we link things together, but can also show the traceability in what you see here on the slide is a traceability matrix. We have a mechanism that allows us to do completeness check of the data before handling it over to the notified bodies. These traceability matrices, such as the one shown here, show the relationship between all the necessary information, but also marks any missing information that's crucial to Annex 2 or 3 of the MDR and IVDR. So what we see here is the full traceability from the regulatory requirements via the system or product requirements, all the way down to the verification test cases, as well as the verification test results. So what we see here is a full traceability. So we see that everything is complete, but we also see, and it indicates which of the parts were missing. And that's crucial for delivering the documentation, the technical documentation to the notified bodies. So these matrices, once we have defined everything, can be a very large help in understanding if we have everything or if something's still missing. So that is what I wanted to cover in terms of the challenges and also some of the alternatives we can use digitalizing the processes. Let's look a little bit into the solutions that we have to do this and to implement this. So based upon a solution called Polarium, together with a product from a set of solutions from a German-based company called Avasis, we can offer a full solution for medical device lifecycle processes. And here's a comprehensive overview of each stage in the development process and how we can support this with functionality within this Polarium portfolio. First, we start with importing and managing the regulatory documents from laws and standards and guidances into Polarium. And we can use something called AVA workflow to make sure that all of these documents and relationships are reviewed and approved. Then we can actually define and manage the risks using Polarium and AVA Risk, where Polarium is already doing some basic risk management, but on top of that, AVA Risks allows you to create risk matrices that are very common to the medical device industry, where we can really classify the risks in different classifications, pre and post mitigation. And we can also link these risks to development, usability engineering, and clinical evaluation. So we have the ability to link all of this together. Next is the documentation of usability engineering activities and the creation of the usability files. And again, this can all be done within Polarium while maintaining the interfaces to the development and the risk management. The fourth step is the documentation of clinical evaluation activities and the creation of the clinical evaluation file, while again, make sure that we can maintain all the interfaces that we have to development, to risk management, to usability engineering, etc. So you can see with each step we're maturing, we also make the model more complex. There's more relationships being taken into account. And finally, in the step 5 and 6, we have the ability to manage our post-market surveillance and clinical follow-up information. So all of this can be done in a solution that's based upon Polarium, which is an out-of-the-box solution that we can offer, with on top of that, some solutions from Avasis that are aimed at the medical device industry and can help you to really save time to digitalizing your process of creating your product development and your product documentation for the notified bodies. So in summary, what are really the benefits when dealing with the development of medical or in vitro devices using these solutions that we have described in this presentation. It can help you to ensure completeness and ease of reuse of information in different processes and documents. It helps you to save up to 30% is the estimate of time in creating regulatory documents and ensuring consistency of information. It also allows you to visualize the origin of the information. So when reused and control the automatic updates of this information in the other documents. It uses traceability matrices to visualize the dependency between the different data instead of referencing to documents, which is a need to fulfill regulatory compliance. It also allows you to basically analyze the impact of changes across different processes and documents. We can offer this solution and we can offer help in setting it up, but there are more solutions to it. What's key and what I wanted to sort of convey during this presentation is really that there are mechanisms to digitalize the way of working. Instead of using paper document, instead of using Excel or Word or other types of formats, using a digitalized process to allow you to get better reusability, traceability, and also visualizing the change of impact. So if you want to read a little bit more on this, and especially some of the details on what I have covered during this presentation, you can have a look at the mdku.digital website. This is the Medical Device Knowledge Unit website, which covers, well, a lot on this topic. Status quo, what are the challenges, can be done by digitalization, and what are the benefits in larger details. And this is not product specific. This is just in general, it covers a lot of the information on how to actually get better digitalization of your medical device regulation approvals. I hope with this presentation, I gave you a little bit of a hint of what's possible in terms of digitalizing your processes, and also what solutions we have that can help you there. We can obviously dive further into the solutions. We can set up a demo if you're interested. There's definitely time to do that. So if you have time and you would like to dive into some of these items, please let us know. Contact us. Our contact details are on this slide. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the process in general, digitalizing your medical device regulation process, or when you would like to learn a little bit more about the solutions that we can offer based upon Polarion and the Avasa solutions. So I would like to open the floor for any questions. If you have any questions, please let us know. There's actually a question and answer window where you can type in your questions, and we're happy to try to answer those.
There are some questions already given. I might read them. And by the way, my name is John Ludvigsen. I might read them, and then Rick, if you can answer them.
Yep, no problem.
You are talking about Polarion and Avasys. Is this two different solutions?
Well, basically, yes. Polarion is basically a solution that can be deployed across different industries. It's an application lifecycle environment, application lifecycle management environment, where you can actually use it to do requirement management, to do quality assurance across different types of industries. Avasys is a company that's specialized in the medtech or the medical device industry, and they have developed some solutions on top of Polarion. So they are different solutions, but they are complementary to each other. Avasis is a set of solutions on top of Polarion that makes Polarion more more equipped specifically for the medical device industry.
Okay. And then another question is it possible to try the solution or the solutions?
Yes. Yeah, we can offer Polarion as an on-premise evaluation. So if you have a more restricted environment where you would like to install it locally, that's possible. We can offer that. Also, we can offer it alternatively as a cloud-based login, so you can try it out that way. And this would give you the ability to try and establish some hands-on experience with Polarion. When it comes to the Avasis plugin, well, it's hard to to install all of that as an evaluation, but we're happy to demonstrate the functionality and show what addition that will give to the standard Polarion environment.
Great. Another question is you talked about Excel and Word. One problem is that we need to update our Excel files all the time. Can this be solved differently here?
Yes. So basically, if you already have your requirements and your test cases or any documentation or basically your standard requirements already in Word or Excel, we can import that information into Polarion. We can then establish the relationships between them or re-establish them if they're already there. And then Polarion basically becomes what we call the single source of truth. So this is where you basically will maintain your data, you will maintain the information. However, you can still exchange the information with external parties by what we call a round trip, exporting and re-importing it again, passing it on to, for example, a subcontractor you work with, or an independent contractor or a customer, have them look into it, have them even review the documents and bring that information back into Polarion. The Polarion, once you have imported the data into Polarion, becomes the single source of truth, obviously, but you can still use Excel or Word to do these round trips.
Another question is, we have a specific way of working. Do we need to change that?
Good question. Now, Polarion is rather easy when it comes to customize it to your way of working. And but I must, on the other hand, also say it's a rather out-of-the-box solution, which means that, well, you don't need, and this is something we have been seeing with some of the other application lifecycle management solutions out there, you don't need to build up or establish scripting or coding standards or language knowledge to customize it to your need. Polarion comes with a number of example templates, project templates, that you can simply use to actually already get started rather quickly. And you can easily adopt those templates or change those templates to your need. So if you have a slightly different way, a slightly different setup in terms of the number of levels of requirements in your V model or things like that, you can easily adopt to that way of working and make that change within Polarion. So you can make Polarion fit to your way of working. And it doesn't require you, as I said, to do real scripting. You can do it by going to what we call the admin environment within Polarion and simply configure it by some forms that you can change. This can be done by yourself as a customer. It can be done by us, and we can also help you and learn you how to do that. Also, we offer you to get trained in that area if needed.
Then you talked a lot about medical devices, Polarion only for medical device.
No, and I think I've already hinted to that. No, Polarion is basically can be used across many different industries. So it's really I would say it's an application lifecycle management solution that is aimed at managing the lifecycle of your software over time, making sure you deal with requirements, with changes in requirements, with quality assurance, with regulatory requirements. So we do see that it's most used in heavy regulated industries, and the medical device industry is one of them, but also the automotive industry. We see currently the energy industry, the aerospace industry. All of these industries, we have customers using Polarium in several ways. So it's definitely not aimed only at the medical device industry. So it's really a generic ALM solution that can be used across many different industries.
Taking on a solution like Polarium, how do we get started the best way? Or also maybe how long do you think it can take to get started?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Well, as I already mentioned, Polarium is actually well, I would say compared to others out there, a rather out of the box solution. So what we see, our experiences with customers, we offer Polarium with together with training and some quick start consulting. So to get you up to speed and maybe making some small customizations. And then we typically have most customers up and running in 1 or 2 month time frame. It depends on obviously the speed of IT within the company, everything set up correctly, etc., and configured. But typically, that's what we're aiming at. Obviously, it does depend on your custom needs, etc. So if you have a more complex environment or very complex processes, and especially in the medical device industry, if we need to make some customization, for example, to your way of dealing with risk management, etc., well, that could take a little bit longer. But typically what we see is most customers are rather quickly up and running, given the templates that are already offered within the Polarium environment.
You say template. What do you mean about template?
Well, templates are actually project templates. Within Polarium, what we're doing is we have so-called project templates. So you create a new project based upon a template, and that template sets all the configuration, the type of work items, what levels of requirements do you have, but also the methodology. Are you using more a V-level type of methodology or an agile type of methodology? Or so all of that is sort of configured in what we call a template. And Polarium comes out of the box with a set of templates. And on top of that, we also have what we call an extension portal, where you can simply download free of charge some additional templates if you're looking for a specific template given your type of industry. So for example, aerospace or automotive or whatever.
I think that was the last question. Are there any final questions from the audience?
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't see that. No.
Then I would like to thank you all for participating. And again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, either to me or John. Our contact details are on the screen. We will also share the recording of this session after the meeting, so every one of you should have a version of this recorded setting. Thank you for participating today, and yeah, hope to contact and see you later again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.